Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I am joined by Adam Kara. He is the founder of Coaching Culture. How are you today, Adam?
I'm very good, very good, very excited to do this.
Good man. And let's warn anyone. If you do start going blue, it's just because you're in a very cold room.
Yeah, no, and genuinely, I am starting to hold back the shivering right now.
Well, if you just start walking around, I'll understand why as well. So don't
Okay,
worry.
yeah.
Don't worry. So you've got a few aspects to your story which I love, but let's go back to sort of where it all began and how you managed to start a company called Learning Heroes and obviously sell it for a nice little sum by the sounds of it, and obviously that led you to where you are now.
Yeah, it's funny, really. I think sometimes when I think how far back does it go, I could go back to childhood, I guess, like most people, like my mother, my dad was an immigrant into this country. His country doesn't exist anymore. It was kind of taken over, and he found himself here. My
Wow.
mother's an immigrant from Ireland, and I think growing up with that sort of a lot of self-belief given to me, a lot of you can do what you want and make what you want of
Mm.
yourself. So I think that was unconsciously there. But my first sort of memory of this, I must have been ambitious, because I think in 1994, when the lottery was being launched at high school, everybody was talking about, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to win the lottery. And I was saying, I don't need to win the lottery, I'm going to be a millionaire anyway. And I think one of them said, well, it said on the news that to be a millionaire lifestyle, you need 10 million now. I was like, all right, I'll have 10 million then. And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, but when we're older, I'm like, all right, 50 million. I'll have 50 million by the time I'm 35 and I'll retire. And I guess a bit of a spoiler alert, I did retire 4 months before my 35th birthday, multimillionaire. And it's just kind of weird that I
The
made that.
affirmation you had when you were a child.
Yeah, well, I made that bet in high school that I was going to retire by 35, and it strangely, a throwaway, silly bet did shape a lot of my big life decisions around
Wow.
quitting jobs. A nice, cushy corporate job, car. It was middle of a recession. I had a child on the way, and for some reason, I decided to quit and set up my own training company, all compliance training, health and safety and environment and quality stuff that I didn't really care about at all, but it was what I knew, and set up a training company doing that, and just slowly picked up different things, that typical entrepreneur of jumping on shiny new objects at the time, and set up social media websites, set up environmental technologies business, set up a competitive esports business. I dabbled with, I think, that you get told 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Well, I set up 10, so I guess that's the
Yeah.
sure way to make sure one of them wins.
That's the hack. That's the life
Yeah,
hack. Set up
yeah,
10
yeah.
businesses,
Play
one of them's
play the
gonna work.
odds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the big claim to fame is in 2000, late 2014, very early 2015. I started an e-learning company. I mean, it's just a classic startup story. There was, the idea, and then the MVP launch, and the pivot, and then the sort of the rebrand, and the growing the team, and then adapting to the market, and the big exit at the end as well. I set it up with an exit in mind. From day one, I made decisions about who I was going to sell it to and how it would be valued, and that defined the metrics. Starting with that end in mind just clarified the whole strategy
Mm.
throughout. And yeah, it was an incredible story, really. It can go into detail about it or talk around it. It's what you're interested in.
It's for me. It's how you grew that business to get it to the level that you sold at. Because I think that's the interesting. There's so many e-learning stuff out there. There's so many startups starting every day, as we know. So many MVPs being put out there, pitch decks being looked at. But the chances of people getting to that sellout stage are, pretty slim. Let's face it. But you did it. It's a success. So congratulations on that. It's so funny that you did it a couple months before your 35th
Yeah.
birthday as well. That's just bizarre. But for you, when you started that business, did you know the level it was going to get to?
I guess so. I always, even now I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a billionaire and this is how I'm going to get to it, but it feels so far away.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when I look back and go, God, I had no idea the reality. So even at the time, I was like, okay, we're going to set this business up. We're going to sell it for 5 million in 2 years. And I mean, we ended up selling for more than that. And it took about 2.5, 3 years. But I don't think I really knew
Mm.
how to get there. It was a bit of, there's faith and there's like, okay, this self-belief to, we can do it. And what I learned along the way is probably worth more than the money, to be
Yeah.
honest. I
Sure.
feel like I could go and do that again and again and again. It just feels so obvious now. Whereas at the time, I guess I used to talk like that and everybody thought I was crazy. I'm working class background, grew up with very little sort of stuff, and just going around telling people, yeah, I'm going to be a multimillionaire and I'm going to create this business. Nobody believed you. So I don't think, whilst I knew it or I believed it, I don't think I actually knew. It was still unfamiliar territory
Mm.
every time we grew.
But if you had that sale in mind and that goal of 2 or 3 years, did you purposely run the business differently to achieve that goal?
Yeah, and it's really interesting actually, because even small decisions that you wouldn't think mattered, um, for example, do I put the company car through the business? Well, no, because when I come to sell, they'll just look at the accounts differently and
Yeah.
do small decisions. But in the early days, some of my management team, when I was saying, okay, I want this strategy because when we exit, not all income is equal, and they will look at a certain line of income and say that is worth a multiple of revenue versus that line is worth 1 times revenue. So
Yeah.
we were, trying to get my team to understand that we're not doing the quick and easy stuff because that won't get us to an exit.
Mm.
Whereas if we do this difficult stuff and build the subscription income and the library of content and IP, then that's going to lead to a bigger exit, and winning over the hearts and minds of people to take that route with the end in mind. Whereas they were looking at next week, next month, how do we
Yeah.
get the money? Whereas I'm thinking, no, the big win is to build this business that somebody's going to want to buy.
How did you manage that relationship though? Because you still have to have those conversations about next week, next month with the staff and who the team.
Yeah.
But if you're still thinking, oh, actually next year I'm meeting a potential buyer, how did you manage those conversations with your team?
I mean, because I was the most experienced, I was the majority shareholder. Everybody had a lot of trust in me and to call the shots. So I think like I'm very, very honest, very transparent, and I think my ideas are very well thought out. So I can win people over and influence people because of the reason and rationale behind what I do. And it's just a case of like I naturally think that way, whereas they have to be sort of talked around to understanding what we needed to do. So yeah, we got there in the end.
It's the classic on the business versus in the business, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a funny one for me, that, because obviously for a lot of people, they get into business as the technician, they're the baker, they're the accountant, they're whatever, and they have to learn to be this entrepreneur. Whereas I think I always got into it being a guy about scale and systems, and I was a marketer and a customer service and a sales guy. So for me, the product was always the product, and I had that mindset of being the owner quite early.
Yeah.
But then you still got to get your hands dirty and graft and do all that hard work. But I never, like everyone says that E-Myth's one of the biggest, most important books in their life. To me, it was just quite like, I don't get it. If you need that, then you shouldn't be in business, without being disrespectful to those people. I just always had that business entrepreneurial mindset from being young.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like that. Here's a spin-off question then, and very wide open question. Do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur, or it's like, are you born with it or can it be taught?
No one's so I define very differently being an entrepreneur to being entrepreneurial. So if I think anyone can be entrepreneurial, you can pick up stuff and think about it. But when I first started in business, I would have never have thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I thought of myself as a business owner, and I'm self-employed, but because now I've lived years doing week in, week out, taking risks, innovating, building products, building teams, listening to my market, seeing opportunities. And once I've lived that, now I feel like I am an entrepreneur. It's just part of everything I do in my core, So I don't think anyone can be born an entrepreneur, because for me, it's that level of experience of being entrepreneurial consistently for a long time. Well, you can't be that when you're young. You have to
Yeah.
build up to it. So I think that many people naturally are creative, sort of problem solver mindset, and that's to me a really core part of it. But the things around the self-belief and being able to learn anything quickly, and the resilience and the focus and
Mm.
the sort of ability to lead and vision and all those things, I mean, you can't be born with those things. They might come from sports as when you're young, or parent influence, but I think it's a journey that you've got to go through.
Yeah.
It's hard, really hard.
Just that you saying that, you're just like, yeah, it is. It's about, I think for me, it's got to be about that resilience. It's got to be about
Yeah,
those days where it's all going wrong and you're questioning yourself, you question everyone. If you can't get through those moments in the frankest way possible, you're not cut out for it.
yeah,
Because no matter what level you are, when you reach your billionaire status, your problems aren't going to go away.
yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people think.
Yeah, it's funny because I see all these things said online. Oh, it's about the journey and not the destination. And well, there's no little sound bite that explains it all. It's both and it's neither, and for me, this
There's not one
billionaire.
book that solves everything.
No, and the people are looking for that often. And for me, this billionaire thing, I think sometimes people think, oh, it's about the money. If I was a footballer and I said I wanted to score the winning goal in the World Cup final, you'd just say, yeah, that's what a footballer wants. Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to create a big, meaningful
Yeah.
business, So the journey that I go on, it's just absolutely about my own personal growth, and my personal growth happens during the tough times. The hardest times that I've been through is where I can literally feel myself sort of developing, and I can tell that I'm pushing my comfort zones and I'm coping with things that I didn't think were possible. It's easy when it's good, like that's not hard. When everything's against you, and that's when you really step up and find out what you're made of.
Do you often do what a lot of people in our situations do and purposely make things harder so it pushes us further?
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of there's two sides to what I think you said there. With the self-sabotage side of things, I think I do that not wanting to do that, but I do
Yeah.
that and make it harder. There is also some decisions I've made which purposefully hold my feet to the fire. I'm there's a lot of talk about accountability, and I know you're a coach and you'll hold your clients to account, but for me, I rebel against accountability. If somebody said, I'm like, who are you to say to me what I should and shouldn't do? What I thrive from is impressibility. So I like to impress people. When I had a boss, I had to impress my boss. I don't have a boss now, and impressing my mum doesn't cut it anymore. That's too easy, So I do.
She'll love you no matter what.
Exactly, So I have to kind of have people around me that I want to kind of impress and thrive to achieve more. So I do things that force me to I think what really truly holds me to account is having a team of employees, because ultimately I have to deliver to keep up to the promises I've made those guys. So I do make things harder for myself. I could have lived a very easy life now, but I've gone and made some risky big decisions which forced me to then push myself. And for example, the angel investing, I wanted to wake up in a few years time and be an angel investor. So I thought, actually, I probably should do some and get the experience and grow. And that's tested me in a whole new way. So
amazing. Back to Learning Heroes, and you went through that sales process, how did it feel when you were out of that business, when you got that check, when it was like the news article somewhere, Learning Heroes has been sold, Adam is now out the business? How did that feel?
It was a whole range of emotions, and going through the sale, our sale was really quick. I think from the letter of intent to completion and cash in the bank was probably something like 36 days.
Wow.
The company that bought us were serial acquirers. They knew what they were doing, so, and it's one of the things that I'd look for in a buyer. There was some people sniffing around that I knew they were going to overthink it and have loads of expectation, but these guys, they had the most incredible terms for us to just be able to leave the business the next day. So it felt, I think people expect me to say I'd given up my baby and I felt like I had something missing, but I did set it up with an exit in mind.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I didn't attach myself to it. Whereas, a lot of people who sell their business, maybe they've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years and they're looking to retire. I built an asset to sell. So there was a massive sense of achievement and relief and accomplishment, and there was all those great things. But there was this really weird sense of that wasn't nothing's changed. Like,
Mm.
what now? I think I thought that I'd go and travel and I'd go do it, but my kids are young, so I ended up doing the school pickup and the drop off, and I was like, I've worked so hard to now be
You
just
weren't on a beach in Thailand doing a late nap.
exactly. Yeah, the highlight of my day was like walking to the local co-op to buy like a bacon butty and then walk home, and I was like, what, So there was this big sense of I need to do something else, and going around looking at these Dragon's Den style startups pitching for money was quite good. I got involved in some interesting things in the startup scene in Manchester, but I'm just never going to get the same returns as what I get in my own business. I mean, the truth of it was I was sat there at 35 thinking, I've just grown a business and sold it for 10 figures within 2.5 years. It would be criminal to not go and do it again. I've got this formula. I know exactly how I did it, and I can do it again. It would have been it wouldn't have been worth it for the money alone. Like the experience that I got from it, it was like, I've got to go and use this again. So
what were people around you saying then when you were in that retirement phase? How it sounds like this was days, not weeks of retirement.
Yeah.
But in that retirement phase, were people saying to you, "Look, Adam, well done, you've done it. Relax now," or were people saying, "Come on, you can do it again. I know what you've got it in you."
Yeah, I'll be honest, right? The 36 days, the due diligence side of it, like the actual technical side of the due diligence, wasn't stressful because I was kind of well organized, knew exactly how to answer everything. But the actual what it meant to me in terms of like that big life-changing amount of money and take me away from sort of the life I'd had to a new life and achievement, it just meant so much that 30 days I was on edge. It was just, the deals, you hear about people getting screwed over and deals falling through, and is this too good to be true? And the amount of times that I said to myself, don't count your chickens, I probably, so it took me a little while to get over that, and that's because I was the founder, the CEO. It was all on me. I dealt with all the legal, all the financial. I dealt with all the transition and team. I dealt with it all myself. For me to actually then come out of it, I think it took me well over a week to just really calm my nerves, which is something I don't think people really will talk about. Like that was just actually
especially as you knew, from an early age almost that was going to happen at that stage of your life. So there's this whole story that you've been telling everyone, and now you've done it.
Well, it meant so much to me in terms of, getting people like my wife to keep faith, and it's like, okay, our people around us are buying houses and you're putting all the money into the business rather than, going on holidays. And, so all the things that I had sort of promised people, big thing, we talked about the resilience, but the delayed gratification to be able to sacrifice now for a greater future. And all that was there ready. You're so close you can see it, but like it just was so far. It also could have been taken away from you with one, oh, we've found this, so we're not buying you now. So it just meant so much. So when it actually come off, and I was going through that, trying to calm my nerves, trying to think about what's next, and but what surprised me was just, I don't know, sort of people got on with their lives and people, not that bothered. And I think I'd done a lot already in terms of who I hang around with. It wasn't people who were going to be jealous of me or envious or weird about it. I think everybody around me knew that they know what sort of person I am. So I don't know. It was just, it was great to think, oh, okay, I can do anything now. But you also, you don't want to go and, what do I invest into, and what do I? It's quite a strange situation.
Just when it happened, and it officially happened, and that check you got given, that huge check, right? Let's just imagine it's one of those massive
novelty checks.
Yeah, one of the novelty checks. Did you purposely do anything with your environment? Like, did you take yourself away to process anything, or was it literally like back to school run from the Monday?
The weird thing is that we actually had a holiday booked, so it was going through, and like my wife went away a day before, so I actually did the final wrap up of the due diligence, and then went out. It was only in Centre Park, so a couple of hours away from where we live. So I went out to meet them, and it was just kind of like, I think the truth is, and she probably won't listen to this anyway, so it's fine. But I think my wife struggled to deal with the whole thing more than I did. That's what shocked me the most. That like maybe our life didn't change properly because she was still worried about trivial things, and I'm like, I don't think you've really grasped the level of opportunity we've got now.
Yeah.
So my life just kind of went a bit normal. So I was like, okay, I'll just go back to work.
Yeah. Has she caught up with things now?
Yeah, in many ways.
Now you're like, look, stop buying the handbag.
Yeah, that's the way she's caught up now. I don't want to be mean to her and stereotype that whole. She's not a gold digger type person, but yeah, we've done well at spending the money. But she's had to have a crash course in what I went through in terms of that mindset journey you go on, in terms of how to think wealthy rather than like the mindset of what it takes to achieve it. She had to go through a crash course of, you need to catch me up or else with two different people, and she's had to go through a lot of her own personal sort of breakthroughs since we've sold, really.
That's a really interesting aspect. So retirement wasn't for you, and now you've created coaching culture. Talk to me about this and how this came about, and what you guys want to do with this now.
Well, I think the truth of it is, e-learning is, so we sell corporate e-learning. We don't necessarily sell, the Thinkific style courses that we see in our business world. We were selling to corporates, so it's all mostly compliance type stuff, the health and safety, the data protection, those things. So we were selling e-learning, but it's quite box tick compliance, sheep dipping. It's not real transformational change. Yeah. So whereas I'd had some coaching, and I knew the value of coaching, and I had a friend who was a coach, and we were thinking coaching gets real transformational change, real sustainable behavior change, but it's reserved for the execs. It's time consuming, it's expensive. How can we make coaching more accessible, more affordable? So I'm this e-learning tech guy, and I'm thinking, can we actually make coaching digital? And at first I thought, actually, it's very face-to-face. It's about the rapport and the interaction and the adapting and things. But when I broke it down and thought, it's actually about really good questions, and it's about showing people another perspective. It's about goal setting and feedback and accountability. It's about journaling, maybe. So when I broke it down, I thought it's not that far-fetched to think that you can be asked questions online, and you can maybe watch sort of these videos to show you a new perspective. So I didn't want to create an e-learning company where it's, I know something, I've told you, you know something, and it's very training. We wanted to open people's minds and see things differently. So we created this tool called Mindset. And funnily enough, I'll tell you the truth. As a marketing sort of gimmick, I wanted to create a magazine to attract people who might buy Mindset. And we went through this sort of like epiphany moment of, in the corporate world, we've talked about learning culture for the last 30 years. It went from being in a classroom where chalk and talk, somebody's telling students, whereas now it becomes blended between online, offline. It's centered around the learner and all these terms we use in the corporate world. Well, we thought coaching needs to go through the same revolution. It needs to stop being between a coach and a exec in a room over there and be something that's cultural, it's strategic, it's where every manager can coach, everyone's got access to coaching. So we coined this phrase of coaching culture, created a magazine around it, and thought anyone who's interested in a magazine called Coach Culture will probably be interested in our coaching software. But the magazine just really took off, and people were more bought into that, and they were like, oh, so now we do like podcasts and webinars, and we put on our coaching culture conference, and we do all this stuff around the community, and people have really flocked to it. And now we offer them Mindset, but we offer them things like 360 feedback tools, engagement surveys, some e-learning, and we're launching this new thing later this year about performance management, which is a way for managers to set objectives and continuous appraisal systems. So it is very corporate. I think a lot of people that listen to a founder's podcast will be a bit turned off by some of this stuff, but in our world, in our world of sort of employee development, I guess people who've got employees and teams will get some of this. But we provide some really useful tools, and it's just took off. I mean, we've got clients now like Etihad and Shell and Mortons, and we've got lots of universities, a few councils, and I can feel this. I mean, we won an award yesterday, some
I
FSB
saw that.
awards. Yeah, so it feels to me like I'm going through that same process. I think some of my team around me are like, we're doing crazy things, and I'm just like, no, this is the day job. I've been here before, and it's going well. But this time, now that I don't need the mansion and the cars and
Yeah,
whatever, I think I'll go a lot further with this one and grow it further and look for a. I've got this crazy idea. I'm saying it's crazy, but it's not. I should believe in it. I could probably take this public if I, 5 years, 7 years. It's not beyond me to do a 9-figure exit this time, and then continue as this. When you sell a company, this is one thing people don't think about. When you sell a company and you hand over control, then that's that. But when you go public, you can keep control and grow further. So that was a bit of a revelation for me to think, what if I try and aim for public this time? But I don't know, if someone come and offered me 50 million in 2 years, it'd be the hardest thing to walk away from. But
for sure.
I don't know.
Are you running the company differently than you did before?
Yes. Yeah. I think just naturally. I don't think on purpose. I just think, we're doing things slightly differently, different people, different brand and things. So there's a few things differently, but then actually a lot of the strategies are like very similar. The way that I organize the departments and the roles and the way that I lead and structure the week, there's a lot of similarities, but just naturally this community first model that we've got with the magazine and stuff, that's kind of like gives us a lot more content marketing to do. So there's a few differences, but it is a blueprint, really. I'm not going to go and reinvent the wheel and risk. I'm going for the similar market, similar sort of subscription model.
Well, that's what works, right? I think talking about reinventing the wheel, I think people spend a lot of time trying to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas what you're doing is your coaching has been around for years. It's nothing new, but you're making it much more accessible, and price points and the community aspect and the both online and offline format side of things, which is really great. It's making the wheel shinier, right? Basically.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the way I think of it is that, like, as I told you at the start, I dabbled with environmental technologies and the social media platforms, some e-commerce, this other cleaning company accreditation business I started. And I woke up one day and I'm like, okay, I've gone, this far and this far and this far and this far. But if I had added them all up, I would be where I want to be. So I need to like stick through that bit where it gets tough. And so what I want to do now is just sort of stay in one lane and not have 10 different things and not be focused. And I've had to learn to be focused. It's not natural to me. So I think it's like my kid. He plays Minecraft and he starts a new world every single time. And I think if you had done one world, all of those hundreds of worlds, it would be this amazing place.
He's probably like, Dad, just leave me to play.
Yeah, that is literally what his issue is with me. And I think that I've built lots of things, and actually I should build on it and on it and on it. And entrepreneurs are very guilty of that. The shiny new object, the quickest win, quickest route to the cash. But if you can just find something, this is why I think passion is important. If you find something that you're passionate about, then you can stick in that field and that lane, then you can build on it. And I could have had a much bigger and better following and career if I'd done this earlier. So it is similar, because I don't want to go and do something different where I've got to learn the 0 to 1 million bit again. I want to now get to the next phase.
Yeah, definitely. For you, when you are, that shiny object syndrome, to not do that, do you have things in like your outside of work to still give you that buzz of something new? Because I think every entrepreneur has that. For me, I love it when I start a little new project.
Yeah, what I've kind of had to do to hack that part of me, but keep it in little parameters that keep it meaningful, like I'm progressing, is our marketing does feel like I get to do new and exciting things. So in my old place, I did things like a flash mob, and I did something I've never seen anybody do still, where at an exhibition, I hired 2 stands opposite each other, and we put a fake company in it. We were saying, we're saving the world from boring e-learning, and the company opposite, this fake one, we said was boring e-learning. And we were having a lot of banter, so everyone walking past was stopping. So those little, we do stuff now, where I'm challenging myself, but within the remit of our own brand. So I don't really do anything. I don't want this to sound like I'm sad. I don't have hobbies. I've started playing football again. I did play a little bit of poker, but in my head, everything is but poker's to learn decision making for business, and
Yeah.
football's to learn leadership for business. Business is my hobby. Some people talk about football. Was he offside or was he not? I talk about markets and models, and that's it.
Yeah.
So a bit sad, but I guess I'm lucky that my hobby is something that I can do for a living and make money from.
And you mentioned earlier about the people around you. How important are those people around you, that environment that you're in, so that this hobby can still be exciting enough to talk about, I guess, because you don't just want to have a hobby and not be able to talk to anyone about it.
Yeah, I guess it's different people around me, and like my family, I try not to really talk about work and things just because I don't think they're that interested. And I wear different roles. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a
Yeah, of
brother,
course.
son, friend, I'm a manager, leader, member of society and humanity, and all these different hats that I wear. And I try and stick to the roles that matter. But my team around me is so important because we are going to always be a small team because of the
Yeah.
nature of the model, and that means every employee is really critical. So one of the biggest things I look for in recruiting the team is, can they work with me? Can I, like that? They're not just a number, or they're not.
Yeah.
We don't expect to get rid of them if they piss us off. We have to get it right. So growing the team is something I think I'm pretty good at and enjoy. But then I've got like I was saying before, I need people around me to impress, and having my peer to peer, my entrepreneur friends who, they're acquiring a business, they're selling a business, they're launching in America, they are doing things that make me think I want to do that. Whereas
Yeah.
my old friends, they would moan about their boss, moan about their wife, only get excited when the next FIFA was coming out. So who I hang around with shapes massively what I think about, and being able to go to them with the same challenges, and actually the mentoring side of conversations that I do has allowed me to think about 100 more challenges than I would have if I just focused on my business. So I've learned so much from those people around me, the business owners. But yeah, I don't think anything will change where being the business owner, being the guy at the top is not lonely. Like, you just have so much in your head that you uniquely think about that nobody will ever get and relate to, that it just feels lonely no
Yeah.
matter what, and that's just one of the
It's
challenges,
weird
I
though,
think.
isn't it, that it feels super lonely, but every other founder or CEO or person at the top also can relate to that,
Yeah.
which almost counterproduces the loneliness, but it still is there because it's all independent thoughts.
I think I've learned to live with it. I
Yeah.
think this entrepreneurial thing is what I call head shit. I guess the way we talk about mindset, I just, like, it's all the shit that goes through your head around you're not good enough and
Yeah, of
all
course.
that, like it's just that's the name of the game. That's the battle, being able to.
And it's a constant.
Yeah, it just is, and being able to sort of feel the fear and do it anyway and all those sorts of things.
Exactly. Listen, Adam, one of my final questions to you is, the one that I ask everyone is, if you could give 3 tips to a founder that wants to go on a similar journey to you to sell their business, what would those 3 tips be?
So for me, people often talk about mindset being the most important thing. I think the market is the most important thing. I've been in businesses where they were the best in their field, but the market was shrinking. They shrank. I've been in businesses where they were awful. The market exploded. They were amazing. I think getting in a growing market just makes everything so much easier. And I think people don't tend to choose their market. They fall into a market. And like, I would give some serious thought into the market conditions. I think the model is so key. I think that, not time for money, being able to do something that's scalable, that allows you to siphon more value for less. I think everyone struggles with those sorts of work-life balances. That's never been an issue for me. I've always been able to scale my value. And then it would be mindset. I would then say, it's about that self-belief and that resilience and being able to sort of develop those things, and that does come from reading and books and pushing your comfort zone and having the right mentors and people around you and things like that. So I'd say market, model, mindset. That's pretty much it.
The 3 M's.
Yeah, I've got 2 more M's, but you said 3, so
You can come on again and we'll do the others.
Okay.
I'm not giving you the chance to do all 5. But listen, Adam, thank you so much for coming on. If anyone wants to chat with you, discuss with you, find out more about what you're about, what's the best way for them to follow your stuff?
Typically, they can find me on Facebook. I'm just happy to chat normally, friend to friend. I don't have any crazy sort of brand where you can do that, but happy to connect on Facebook or LinkedIn. At some point, if you go to adamcara.com, I think there's just an emoji on it, but I think
I went on there earlier and I was like, different.
at some point, I think there'll be some way for people to interact with me on a more formal basis. But yeah, I'm happy to connect with anyone. Just enjoy helping people who are starting up, and also like-minded people and all that. So
amazing. Listen, Adam, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed our conversation. This has been Founders 365 with Adam Cara and me, Steven Haggerty. Thanks everyone for listening and watching.